This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everybody. My name is Caitlin Shake. I'm going to call the Longbrook Park Commission officially to order at 7:05 p.m. It is Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. Due to the coronavirus, all in-person meetings at Town Hall are temporarily suspended. Therefore, the Longbrook Park Commission will conduct the meeting utilizing the online GoToMeeting platform. The link has been provided to all commission members, and the public has been given the public dial access in and the code, so they are able to listen in and participate during our meeting. First official item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from August 5th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Move to accept.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there discussion? All those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
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 Okay,
Aye.
thank you. Next item on our agenda is the report of the Public Works Director. We have Mr. McCarthy here with us this evening. Mr. McCarthy, I believe you were also emailed the minutes from our last meeting. Is that correct? Hold on a second. Can you hear me, Mel?
Yes.
Sorry.
Nope.
Go ahead.
We've been tied up with the storm that hit us the 4th of August, so everything's backed up. The priorities were opening roads and highways. We pretty much wrapped that up, picking up tons of wood and debris. That was fairly completed as far as roads at the end of last week. We then moved into the schools. We had to get those cleaned up for the end of this week for opening up school. After that, we get into the parks. We have done some work in the parks, stuff that was considered dangerous, or tree limbs, hangers, all of that, but we just don't have the personnel or the time. The troops have been working from 6 in the morning to 8 or 9 at night, sometimes around the clock at the beginning of that storm, at the beginning days of that storm. So just to give you an idea, we had about 30 trucks on the road in that time, every day. We will be getting into the parks more heavily, probably by Monday, and we'll continue until they're all cleaned up, and that should wrap it up. But there's a lot of debris out there. There's a lot of damage out there. There's still several takedowns for trees that are split and beat up from the storm. So that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on the park. Kelly's also on the line, the superintendent of conservation, to talk to you about the ponds and so forth.
Okay,
Any
great.
questions?
If you note on the agenda, there were just a few general updates because I had inquired through the mayor's office and then to you, and just so people that are listening in are aware, I had noted that Public Works had cleaned up most of the large debris here in Longbrook Park, and then also on the grass field where we had huge giant limbs that were hanging, and we have kids and people around town that are practicing and using the field area for recreational use. So thank you for cleaning that up. I know you're all working extremely hard, and it's an arduous task, and we appreciate it. But then also, I noticed within the walking path area of Longbrook Park, there were also larger limbs which were picked up. In addition to that, the other update was Martha had noted in our last meeting the paddleboard court, which is now surrounded with the caution tape. Is that correct, Mr. McCarthy?
There's a couple things that have been done.
Mhm.
First of all, the stairs have to be replaced. Carpenter
Yep.
was going to work on them today, but the weather was against us. They did lock the paddleboard court. There is caution tape around it until we get the stairs corrected and the other problems that they found today corrected. And it'll only be a couple of days. It's just the weather has to break for us. And then there was a problem with porta-johns.
Yeah.
That's been resolved. And obviously the splash pad is still out. And I would suspect we're going to keep it out until the end of the season because of COVID.
Thank you, and thank you for also bringing up the porta potty issue, which I had a couple residents email me, and from what I was told was that Longbrook Park was not singled out as the only location throughout town where there were the porta potties that were knocked over. It's been an issue in several other parks as well. So thank you to DPW and Public Safety. I know we had reached out as well for having that issue resolved. Does anyone else from the commission have any questions that they would like to ask Mr. McCarthy while we have him on the line?
Mo, you had said,
Sorry, could
that-
you just, sorry, Roger. Could
no,
you just,
Roger Sauls, I'm sorry. Mo, you in your comments before, you had said there was one thing that was still closed or something at the park, and you probably weren't going to address it because of COVID until, what was that? I didn't hear exactly.
The splash pad has been closed all season. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
because of the
Splash
health
pad.
hazard. And
Right.
I would suspect that's going to stay closed.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. I hadn't heard what the item was. And
Yep.
I appreciate
are there any other questions?
I'm at Bill Perillo, 7th District. I might be getting ahead of the agenda. I know that I was at the Public Works meeting, called in yesterday, and they had talked about some of your questions too, Caitlin, about the pond, because I also have Motel Pond, but the treatment of the pond, and if we can get a little more detail on that.
Yeah, Ms. Carrington, our conservation consultant, was going to speak to
Okay.
the algae remediation.
Yep. And thank you for the update, the email the other day. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Jim McGuire. The chemicals they put in a couple of days ago seem to be working quite well, a lot better than it had been.
Good to know. Okay.
Would you like me to provide, this is Kelly Kerrigan, would you like me to provide an update on the ponds now, or would you want to wait till later?
I think we're gonna have a whole separate section just to talk about the pond because
Okay.
there's
We'll hold off. Yep.
Thank you. Martha, did you have any questions for Mr. McCarthy regarding Public Works? You're muted.
Not right now, I know, no.
Is there anyone on the line from the public that would like to directly ask a question to Mr. McCarthy?
Sure, I'd like to ask a question.
If you could
This
just
is
please
Charles.
state your name. Thank you.
Right, this is Charles Winchell. I'm wondering if there's a proactive approach to tree trimming or thinning out some of these large, older, dead trees. You know, the storm, be able to identify trees that have to come down? Thanks.
The deputy tree warden is inspecting all the trees that are in question, and a decision is made. Sometimes it's very obvious, other times it isn't. But yes, we do look at the trees, and depends on what the situation shows us.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. McCarthy? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. McCarthy, for taking the time to be able to be with us today during the meeting and answer questions. I'm going to ask for you to stay on so that when we do get down to Miss Carrington's update, if there's anything else that you could add regarding the status of the algal treatment, that would be much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we're going to have the report of the Public Safety Director. Mrs. Sorelli, I think.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Well, good evening, everyone. And again, I apologize for missing the last meeting, but I was very tied up as Mo and the rest of Public Works was as I was running the Emergency Operations Center during the storm. But gathering the information, which I believe that I provided to you, Councilman Shake and Councilman Perillo, is we have something called calls for service, and calls for service are activities that bring out police to a given location. So we ran a matrix to look at what kind of calls for service between January 1 and early August of this year to Longbrook or the Longbrook area. And we had 33 of these calls for service, which in of itself may appear to be large, but once you drill down on those calls for service, I believe 9 of them were building checks, and 13 of them were related to social distancing, monitoring, and evaluation. That's 13. 10 were walk and talks where, we told a group of people to break down into smaller groups, and 3, I believe, were actual ordinance violations after repeated attempts at, keeping the groups apart. They wouldn't do it. So once you break that down, you look at the rest of the calls. We had 1 loitering, 2 property damages, 2 suspicious activities, a wellness check, a fraud. And so for an area that large, and for where it's located, and for areas that have really good lighting and other areas that don't have very good lighting, it really isn't too bad, and it's a very safe area for the most part. Any questions?
Well, thank you for giving us an update and walking us through the report that you had sent to the commission for review. I'm just curious, where it says the fraud, what was that? Can you tell us what that is?
I don't have the specificity on it, but I'd be happy to get it for you. So it could just be somebody wanted to borrow money from someone else and they had a need. It could be people that met at a location and to work out a deal. Then one person felt uncomfortable by it. It could be someone borrowing money from someone else and didn't pay it back. You never know at a park in neutral ground that people might have met and done something like that there. It seems, but I can get that information.
Okay, and then my follow-up question, one of my questions, and then I'll open it up to everyone else on the commission and the public. Regarding the 10 walk and talks and the issues around, our public safety, or our police officers really intervening when necessary because of the lack of social distancing that has happened and is still happening in the park. do you have any suggestions, or are there any plans moving forward as we move into the school year? Because I know it was a little bit confusing for a little bit regarding, the teams that are allowed to practice and then those who are now no longer practicing. I'm just curious.
Well, in a bigger picture, what Chief McNeil did was he identified the Longbrook Park as a defined part of their patrol sector. So in other words, that area was focused on, and it's focused on based on normal daily usage. Now, during a school year that is everybody's, from home, the usage is incredible. It could be all day long.
Right.
Now with hopefully at least the majority of the kids back in school starting next week, the area of patrol and the time of the day that needs to be monitored will be more regimented and fixed. So we should be able to look at and define any social distancing issues more easily. So.
Okay. Thank you. And then I just want to make a note of, thank you to Public Safety and Public Works and working together with some of the vandalism graffiti issues that we had earlier in the year. And thank you to the mayor's office also, because we all, were communicating with each other, and Public Works was out within, not even 24, 48 hours to try and clean up what was happening. And I know that there was, a question regarding where the video cameras are within the park, because there is video monitoring. Is that correct?
Well, yes, there is video monitoring, but it's virtually impossible to carry every angle, and also the unfortunate height of the cameras have an impact on its ability to identify an event going on in a fashion that will be able to pick out facial features and so forth. The expense of those cameras are astronomical versus the basic cameras we have. So, I mean, if that's a recommendation from the commission, then public safety, we'd look at that. But right now is that we don't see that, that risk to the population to warrant that type of cost for those type of additional cameras, which would require not only new cameras, but identifying different camera angles, maybe setting up poles to be able to manage those camera angles. Cameras in the parks are difficult because you don't have a lot of lighting at night. You have to draw cameras that have to utilize the ambient light, which are more expensive as well. So.
Okay. I do have more questions, but I want to open it up to the rest of the commission if anyone else has any questions.
Yes, I have a question now. How many cameras are there right now?
I don't know, but even if I do know specifically, I probably would not disclose it. That's the security measure we have as a town. Sorry.
No problem.
Does anyone else have any questions regarding public safety and support? No? Okay, my next question is, I live literally right in back of or in front of the grass field area, and then adjacent to up the street from where the splash pad is, and then the baseball field. So I've gotten emails from residents, or I've heard, just trying to go to sleep myself, the fireworks that have been going off in the park. And then we have had, the police have come out and responded, but my suggestion, or I guess my inquiry first before a suggestion, in terms of the police presence that we do have in Longbrook Park, I do think that there needs to be more, especially on weekends, because there's always a cluster of people hanging out, in the gravel parking area across from Pender's Field, and then in the back portion of the grass field area. So I'm just curious, in terms of patrolling If you think that we are doing enough, or if you would be open to suggesting to the chief to increase the patrolling at nighttime or drive.
Well, a lot of it, we don't see necessarily the calls that are resulting from problems in that area. We look for patterns, and the beat and the patrol in that area evaluates those areas by pattern. So if we see a pattern and we start seeing a lot of calls for service related to that, yes, we will increase the tempo of investigation and review of that area. Of course we would.
So what would define an increase? Would it be 3 or 4 a week?
It's a good question. It would depend on the veracity of the event and its frequency. But if you're looking at something, 5, 6, 7 times a month, I would think that would be enough to review.
Okay. And I know recently we've had, dirt bikes going up and down Charlton Street at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. So I think we need to figure out, because it's just a cause for concern of people speeding, whether it's in a car, whether it's on a dirt bike in a residential area. So if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, a lot of it depends on timing. Those kids are in on whatever kind of vehicle they're in. By the time somebody gets there, they're gone. So, it's all about timing. I mean, it's like putting up a speed limit review where you stage a police car in an area that you think people are speeding. It's the same thing we do for this. So again, if we see a lot of calls for service in that particular area, then we'll definitely put a patrolman in there.
Go ahead, Bill.
Can I add something? Bill Perillo, 7th District. Also, Larry, it's not off the top of my head. There's an app. Sometimes the residents may be afraid to call, because what could happen a lot when I used to work, you call, 2 cars come to your house to take the report, and then maybe the people that are hanging out knows that you're calling, and it deters a lot of people. We have an app that it's anonymous, and twice a day, or maybe even more often, someone at the PD with the computers will review it for complaints like this, to keep the people anonymous. But what they may want to add, we could tell our people that live in the Longbrook area the times, and then this way the chief can work a strategy. Larry, do you know the name of the app that people can use on? Is it a police one? I haven't.
No, I don't know off the top of my head, but to your point, Bill, the most critical thing is the definition of what's going on, and then the time of the day it's occurring. And
right.
To your point, that's exactly what police needs.
And what's occurring also. So
what's occurring? Defining what's going on.
Call 911 if you have to. But I'll get the name of the app. It's free. It's on for all types of phones, for all software. They worked hard on getting it, and it's an anonymous tip. It's like a tip line, but the important thing is the right information. Just tipping on it, you may want to include. So I'll get from the chief the name of the app, and then I'll text you or whatever we got to do, and we'll get it out to the people for however we can update them. That could help too, for them to set up something proactive, because they'll know the time. But a lot of people are afraid to call, or they may be intimidated to call, and I understand all that. And this relieves them from all that.
Thank you, Bill. I just have one other question, just for
I got it. It's tip. I'm sorry, Kate. It's tips 411 is the app. Chief McNeil just texted me that.
Thank you, Chief McNeil. Thank you, Larry. Tips 411.
Yes. I apologize. I should have known that.
The 4 ordinance violations, what can you speak to those?
I believe those were social distancing.
Okay. So the 10 walk and talks, those were not just social distancing? That included.
Well, they were, but the group broke up. The ordinance was when they were a little bit more defiant in the breakup of the group.
Have you received any call-in complaints regarding people that are fishing in Brewster Pond?
Not that I have, no. And there's nothing in call for service that has that record.
I'm only asking because I know, it's catch and release, it's not catch and keep. And those that are allowed to fish in the pond, so we can visit that another day. Does anybody else have any questions regarding public safety from the commission or from the public?
Yeah, I'll ask you a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Winchell.
Last week we had some 2 or 3 individuals at 2 or 3 in the morning on Brightwood Avenue, rifling through cars. I believe the ones they got into were unlocked. I'm not sure, but they just basically walked up and down our street and were checking all the cars. So we all spoke amongst ourselves about it and we're watching out, but I'm wondering if that's something that's been a problem in the area or just on our street. If you could speak on that, thanks.
Sure, I think it's a problem in different areas of the town at different times, and there's groups, especially young kids, that identify cars that are unlocked, that people leave their belongings in there, and it happens quite a bit in Lordship. In the area that you're speaking of, I was not aware of that. If it was last week, it probably didn't get to this report, because this report closed out second week in August. But yeah, I mean, but all people need to take their own personal responsibility, make sure their cars are locked and their belongings are taken out of their cars, and the fact they need to make sure they take their fobs out of the cars if the car is fob driven, not key driven. And no, those are important things to do, because that's unfortunately is the first step in any protection of probably the second most valuable asset for most people is their automobile, is to protect your automobile, make sure it's locked. Because these young kids do not have the capabilities to easily break into a locked vehicle and take off in it. They need the key, they need the device to start the car.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Larry, for taking the time to be with us and update us and clarify a few things regarding public safety. I'd like to ask as chair that every month, if there are additional updates, that you could please send it to the commission so that we know what's going on in real time. And again, I appreciate, the cooperation and the communication from, my end as the councilwoman, and then working with you and Public Works of the mayor's office.
Sure, ma'am, and I'll be happy to give you that report on a monthly basis. That's fine.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next item of business. We have a report from our conservation consultant, Ms. Kelly Carrington. Kelly?
All right. Yep, I'm here. Sorry about that. I was on mute. All right, so I'll start really quick by first going over what we are doing that we've kind of always been doing, and then something new that we'll be doing moving forward. So in the past, we have always treated our ponds with a variety of chemicals to counteract the algal blooms that we are experiencing that are due to a variety of factors. This year, due to the coronavirus pandemic, as many of you know, Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection actual offices have been closed, so a lot of the permit processing has been somewhat delayed. and in order to treat the ponds with the chemical concoction that we treat them with, we need permits from DEP to do that. So unfortunately, our permitting was slightly delayed. By slightly, I mean a month. And that, combined with the extraordinary heat waves we have been having, have resulted in that lovely split pea soup you've been seeing out there. So back, I think 2 Fridays ago, I want to say, we finally received our permits from CTE. And this past Monday, as you all have observed, we finally got our chemical treatments to Brewster, Longbrook, and Modal. So that Modal is not part of this commission's purview, but anyways, we've done our first treatment on Monday, and then every 2 weeks or so we will be conducting treatments. So we'll do another in September and then again in October, and that should probably wrap it up for this growing season, and then we'll move forward as we see fit for next summer. In addition to the chemical treatments, I know that these pond systems have been looked at in the past, but that's in the very distant past. And as such, I've reached out to some colleagues at Northeast Aquatic Research, and I don't have an exact date yet, but I have a tentative time frame of the beginning of the second week of September. They'll be heading out to the ponds to start collecting some data on what they're seeing for water clarity, water depth, substrate composition, what the inputs to the pond system are, and what kind of chemical analysis. They'll be taking some water samples as well. So you may see those folks out there in the coming weeks collecting data. They'll be in kayaks or similar watercrafts. I don't believe they'll be using any motorized watercraft that I'm aware of. And then from that preliminary kind of data collection, we will be able to kind of move forward in an iterative process to determine if there's maybe some things we can fix on the front end of this problem. Sometimes there aren't, and that'll be what it'll be. But my thought is that instead of just kind of treating the kind of the symptom of what's going on, try and identify some causes and see if we could nip them in the bud before we even get to these algal blooms. It's something we'll probably always be dealing with, but if there's something we can do to improve the environment, I'd like to give it a try at least, and go from there. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Kelly.
Caitlin, excuse me.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just have an update when you're done. I'm sorry. I got some more info.
Okay, I'm just gonna continue with Kelly and questions, and then we will come back to you when we finish. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Sure. Thank you.
Kelly, I was going, first of all, thank you for sharing the information that you have and the process and the timeline for the algal remediation, and just reiterating what the process has been in terms of getting access and starting, the application, and then follow up for the algal remediation. Unfortunately, due to COVID, in all aspects of everyone's lives, everything has been delayed or derailed. However, I appreciate you communicating swiftly with us and answering questions that we've had. My follow-up question for you is regarding the data collection that's needed in order to come to some type of conclusion so that we know how to move forward in a responsible and sustainable way to preserve really and to improve the health of Brewster Pond and then Longbrook Pond, and Motil leads into Brewster. So the process that you just briefly reviewed with us, or shared with us rather, it sounds like there are a lot of different moving parts. So I'm just curious if you have an idea of how many people that will be on this team will actually be present in the park. Like, is it 3 people that are going to be collecting the different types of data that you need, or is it a larger group of people?
I'm anticipating 1 to 2 Well, usually there's a minimum of 2 people when you're out collecting data, just for safety purposes. So I'm envisioning at least 2 people, but I wouldn't say any more than 5. It's a pretty small group of researchers and limnologists that are in this company. So there shouldn't really be more than 2 or 3 is what I'm anticipating.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, because I think that might help people who are listening choose to, review this meeting again, that they know that it's not going to be a huge amount of people suddenly descending into Longbrook, in suits or anything like that. So people will still be able to go out and enjoy the pond, enjoy the park, in peace.
Yes, certainly. We won't be shutting down any portions of the pond or the park. There won't be any safety issues with them being there at all. Once I do have a date nailed down from Northeast Aquatic, I was planning on emailing both you and Mike Downs with that schedule. I know it's partially weather dependent, so they haven't quite set a date yet. So once I have that, I will give that to you. And I forgot to mention that on the permitting side for the chemical application, that is a 3-year permit. So if we still move forward with the chemical applications, which we likely will in the ensuing years, we will be good to go. So even if there's a COVID or pandemic or something, we will have the permits and we are ready to rock and roll as soon as that cyanobacteria is acting up in the summer.
Thank you so much. Does anyone from the commission have any questions regarding Kelly's update?
Roger Sauls. I'm just very pleased that it's a 3-year permit, so that we don't have to deal with what we had to deal with this year.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to ask any questions regarding the pond and algal remediation? Do you have a question?
Can I ask a question, please?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. We don't have you listed. Can you state your name, please?
Yes, this is Tom Galati from 492 King Street.
Hello, Tom.
Hi. I just want to say that I coach American Legion Baseball, and we did have an abbreviated. We were not affiliated with American Legion Baseball, but we did run an independent league, basically with our same players and same local teams. And we got through this with COVID, and we thank the town for everything they did. But in the past, it wasn't too bad this year, but we have had in the past, and I've spoken to Mr. Perillo about this and a few others, kids would be running on the field. I did have to call the police a few times in the prior season. But it wasn't too bad this year. But it would be nice if we did have a few police officers that maybe did come to some of our games or did a stop, walk, and talk and pop in once in a while. We did have one of our former coaches is a retired police officer, and we used to get some cops would stop by on patrol to check us out, and that would be maybe in the future might be a little positive for the kids. And also, the other day when we went down to clean out the dugout of our gear, there was in the third base dugout there was another gang tag. Last year there was all over the wall. It was sexual gang tag and other gang tag, and this year it was on the.
Mr. Galati?
Yeah.
Sorry, that this portion of the meeting is asking our conservation consultant regarding questions with the report that she just shared with us regarding the
Okay, I apologize then. Thank you.
But if you want to, don't hang up, and we'll open it up to new business, and you can ask questions. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to address Kelly with their concerns regarding the pond? I don't know. Kelly, I am going to ask, the last time you were able to share with us, via email, because you were also out helping with the storm cleanup. So thank you for helping keep us safe. Education out, once we find out what the main variables are of what's causing this algal bloom every year and what the steps are moving forward, do you have any idea of a timeline of when that would potentially take place?
I think a lot of it's going to depend on what Northeast Aquatic finds when they begin their data collection. What they're doing is kind of a baby step, I guess, toward figuring out what's going on and coming up with a plan moving forward. So I kind of want to wait and see what they come up with. I'm anticipating probably a month or so after they collect their data, we'll have some more ideas on that. But I'm a strong proponent of the education outreach component as well, because it also coincides nicely with our townwide municipal stormwater permit. There's an outreach educational component to that as well, and sampling for water quality. So these two kind of tie in nicely together. So I would say maybe we can come up with a good plan later this year, early next year. A lot of it's going to depend on the timeline and what we find out from Northeast Aquatic.
Thank you. And just to clarify, you said that Northeast Aquatic they're going to start their data collection in the second week of September. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I guess sometime next week, but I have not confirmed that date with them yet. So once I have that date confirmed on when they will actually be physically at the park, I'll send that out to Mike Downs and you can send it to the constituents and the commission, just so everyone knows why there's someone in a kayak in the middle of Brewster Pond.
Yeah. We're going to move on to new business, and just for the public's knowledge, our next scheduled regular meeting, Carol, you want to announce? Carol.
You're muted, Carol.
October 7th. Did you hear me? Thank you.
We've had a couple of inquiries about was regarding a fall cleanup date for Longbrook. I know in the past with this commission, we've worked with Public Works, just so that whatever it is that the commission is doing is not doubling the same work that Public Works is doing, and further suggestion and safety issues. So a date that was thrown out so that there's ample time to plan and then advertise and then get residents aware so that they can come and volunteer, was October 3rd. Okay with that?
I will check my calendar.
Sounds good.
Caitlin, Bill Perillo, what time October 3rd?
We can pick.
Okay. October is good. That's good. October 3rd.
So does that date work for you? Martha?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Practice, the cleanups have taken place, in the morning, like 10 o'clock. That way a couple hours and then people can go on and make the rest of their Saturday or Sunday.
Excuse me, Caitlin. We
Go ahead.
always start before 10. We start about 8 or 8:30 at the latest.
In the morning. Yep.
Yes. And October 3rd works for me.
Okay. So would you like to start at 8 o'clock in the morning?
I would.
Yeah, Jim McGuire, I think 8 is good.
8 o'clock? Okay. So I'd like to hear your feedback first, or if there's anything specific regarding the cleanup that you would like to see happen in the park. I mean, obviously, I hope we don't have any more storms. But if it's leaf collection, if it we can reach out to the beautification committee as well, if they have any suggestions. That way we have as many people as possible helping to clean up the park. I had already reached out to our state representatives, Joe Bresco and Phil Young, and they said that they are more than happy to come be with us and to get more people involved throughout the town to come to Longbrook to help us in this event. So I would like we can share this on social media. I have my, I guess my government Facebook page for District 2, so Caitlin Shake, Councilwoman for District 2, and I'm happy to make an event and we can have all the information that people will need to know in there, and then we can also have an email that's sent out to the public so that they're aware, and then we will have it and speak to the town hall, mayor's office, and get as many people as possible to come help. And I think it'll be a great fall event. Go ahead.
Where do you meet? Where? Where at the park do you meet?
Oh, what is it? Jim, what's the street beside you?
Marcus Drive.
Marcus Drive.
Marcus?
Yeah,
Right.
M-A-R-C-U-S.
Here at the top of the pond, and usually manage to find some coffee and donuts someplace.
Yeah, I can bring coffee and donuts.
Hey, Caitlin.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Kelly Kerrigan. Can you please keep me in the loop on the cleanup efforts as well? I'd like to share that with Conservation Commission, as that's something that they might be interested in as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
So 8 a.m. Market Drive, that's where we're going to meet.
Works for me.
Great. Does anyone else have anything specific regarding the park that they would like to see improved or given attention that hasn't been given attention? Okay.
Oh, this is Janet Zamparo speaking.
Go ahead, Ms.
Okay, two things. One thing is that I think our last cleanup, there was a concerned resident that there was a dodder vine in the upper pond area, and I'm not sure if it is. I did go online, and the vine, in fact, did look like it. I'm not using the Latin name on that, but at any rate, so I don't know if we can look at that. According to her, it could be extremely invasive. It is extremely invasive, and it actually can go into other people's yards and choke out their plants and flowers and trees. So I don't know who we can get to look at that, or if anybody can identify that vine, and if there's a way to eradicate it from that upper pond if it is in fact there.
This is Kelly Kerrigan. really quick. Dodder is an invasive, or it can be an invasive plant. It is native, and it's actually a parasitic vine. But if you want, I can go stop by and check it out. I know that myself and the park superintendent sometimes work together on invasive species management, so we can check that out for you if you'd like.
I think that would be great, just because somebody was concerned about it and did, so if I don't know how you would manage it, but I think it would be great to have some follow up on that.
Okay, sure. I know in the past, not in my tenure at the town, but in my private consulting life before coming on board with the town, we did manage it with chemical applications with herbicides. But yeah, let's look at it and we'll assess and go from there.
Okay. Thank you for that. And one other thing, and I did this. Used to be a concern. I mean, this always has been a concern of mine for the past couple of years. Over by East Parkway, there is a hill where I think over the years it's been used as a place to hang out and party, and there is extensive rubbish. It is in the yard. It is in the woods. However, there is so much there that although I do go along that hill, again, along East Parkway, it is a little bit into the woods. Although I am in that woods every spring cleaning it out of rubbish. My husband and I are cleaning that area out of from rubbish. There is one area that is so highly trafficked and trashed that I haven't even approached that area. And I've been bringing that to the attention of the commission for, I don't know, maybe the last 2 years or so. And when I've participated in the cleanups, I've been told that people have gone over there to look at it, people from the town. I somehow never am over at that hill when they are over there during the cleanup. So as a result, I don't think anything's been done over there. And I would love some follow-up at some point. I know we have so much to do, but at some point, I would like some follow-up on that. Although it is in the woods, I don't think that that's something that we should be leaving in the woods. So those are my two concerns this week. Sorry, this month.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's very important for residents of the town, whether they live in District 2 or 7, or they don't live in District 2 or 7, because the park is enjoyed by residents who live throughout the town, to voice their concerns of what they're observing or what they have observed over the past several years. And I am new to this position as well, and I'm happy to meet. I could meet you. You can email me. I'm available the next several days to go out and observe it with you.
Great. Excellent.
On the phone, and we have Ms. Michael Downs on the phone from the mayor's office. Because if this is an ongoing issue, there should not be a pile of garbage, period, in any of our town parks.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Okay. I will send a message. That's fantastic. Thank you.
And
Ma'am,
you know what?
could I have your address?
My address is 230 Allendale Drive, and I live right across that part of land. I'm right steps away from that on Allendale Drive.
I'm going to probably knock at your door tomorrow if that's okay, and you can show them where it is.
That would be great. That would be fantastic. I mean, that's follow-up. Thank you.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
If you could just let Michael Downs know what time you're going out. That way there's not multiple people going to Miss Amparo's house and occupying most of her day, because I'd like to see the area as well.
Well, hopefully, if we go out there tomorrow, we'll get it out of there tomorrow.
Great. Sounds great. So you just let me know what time you're going, and I'll move my schedule around so I can go down with you guys.
Do the best we can.
Thank you. I was going just to make a comment for anyone listening, and then for those who will look up this meeting and listen in. I have always been a supporter and advocate for people to, identify and advocate for what their concerns or needs are. And I'm glad that we have people calling in, but I also want to emphasize that it's very important, and I receive a lot of emails. The town receives a lot of emails. I know Mr. Perillo we all receive emails from residents here, but it's really important that residents put it in writing of what their concern is so that we can then follow up with it and there is a paper trail so that there is proof that you have brought these issues to our attention through the proper channels. We all live very busy lives, and I try and access my email as often as I can, but when I am at work, I'm a nurse full time. I do not have time I don't have the availability and accessibility while I'm working 13 hours to check my emails. So as soon as residents send an email, I try and respond as quickly as possible. And if I don't immediately respond, it's because I'm working, but I will respond. So just if you have any neighbors also, Mrs. Amparo, that also have concerns or have had concerns, just so it's on record, encourage them to also email me, and then you can see Michael Downs and the commission so we have it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's great.
You're welcome.
Will do.
Okay. Mr. Galati, or does anyone else, before I move on to Mr. Galati, is there any other new business from the commission that you would like to bring up or bring? Okay, and then before I jump to that, I know, Larry, you wanted to give us an update or circle back.
Yes, thank you, Kaylee. I had just some additional information regarding car break-ins. So there has been some arrests in the area, which is a good thing. The problem is those arrests are done on very young perpetrators, which in our system get out and about and we're able to redo the damage to future cars again. So it becomes, unfortunately, right now a cycle. So, but the teams are monitoring it. There are teams that are monitoring it different areas in the town. So, as I reiterated before, the best thing to do is to, defend yourself as best you can, which is the first line of defense, which is lock your car. But there has been some arrests lately, in particular in that area that resident spoke of. So the PD is on it.
Thank you.
Good.
Mr. Galati, did you want to share your concern regarding Longbrook Park?
Well, just so I don't want to take anybody's time up more, but just like I said, there was more vandalism in the third base dugout within the last week or so, gang tags, and I hope that Mr. McCarthy could sandblast it or whatever, get rid of it, and maybe be like I say, those cameras over there, they're not going to catch people in the dugouts because it's dark and it's like I think Mr. Ciccarelli said, the angle is you're not going to see good. But I just wanted to point that out. And like I say, I wanted to thank the town for allowing us to have our baseball season, which was pretty much normal this year. And hopefully next year we'll have a regular season. Hopefully the world will get back to where it is as fast as we can.
Kaylee, can I respond to Mr. Galati for a point he made?
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Galati, you mentioned that you coach,
Yes,
I believe it was you that coached Legion baseball. Is that correct?
Yes, but we technically were not called Legion this year, but it was the same age bracket and same kids.
Right. But if you can feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to get all my public safety groups involved in watching games, interacting with the young people and the players and watching the games. So, in the future, don't be afraid to reach out to me directly. We're happy to do that. So.
Okay. Yeah. Like I say, I mean, if the car drove through and got out for 5 or 10 minutes and did a stop, walk, and talk and popped their head in the dugout or whatever, or waited for their next call to come in, we wouldn't mind that at all, you know?
Yeah, that's just let me know. Yeah, we'll be happy to do that. That's
Okay, thank
that's
you,
what
sir.
we're there for. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you to both of you. And Mr. Galati, I'm going to take a walk down to the baseball field tomorrow just so I can observe it myself. And
Okay,
hopefully we
thanks.
get that resolved. And you have my email address?
Yeah, it's on the town website, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Again, please send me an email if you can tonight, and you can CC Mr. Downs so we can
Okay.
get that addressed.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, seeing that there is no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Bill Perillo.
I'll second it, Jim McGuire.
Thank you to everyone to join our meeting tonight, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Cicerelli, Ms. Kerrigan. With that, we will adjourn the meeting, and it is 8:06 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good night.
Good night.
You too. Thank you.